All right, today we're going to talk about some tips on how to build your biceps up without adding any weight, which is actually one of the biggest mistakes when trying to develop your muscles, specifically the biceps, relying on too much weight that you can't control. And we'll get into that in a moment and explain why. And you're going to be blown away when you learn these tips because it's going to save your joints, it's going to actually target the muscle, you'll only be sore in the muscle, not other areas, and you're going to start adding inches to your arms. So these two questions come from Keaton Hubble. Oh, by the way, if this is your first time here, my name is Vince DelMonte, and I want to welcome you to the show. I answer my fans' questions in 3 minutes or less. So we've got two questions coming off my Facebook page here. This one's from Keaton Hubble. He says, I haven't been seeing any bicep gains in the past few weeks. Any help? And yes, I do have some help. And the next one's from Bartjan Van Clef. He says, hey Vince, great show. My question is, how can I train the long bicep muscle best? I'm going to assume you mean the long head of the bicep. I have a gap between my forearm and bicep, and anyways, so he's got some issues with his biceps too. And who doesn't have issues with their biceps? I'm actually, for those who don't know, getting surgery very, very soon. I may have had it by the time this video is uploaded, to straighten out my left arm because I haven't been able to train my own arms properly for the last 2-3 years now because of some bone chips that I have. Actually, one of them is 4.5 centimeters in my left elbow, which prevents me from straightening my arm, which prevents me from fully shortening my bicep. If you can't fully shorten your bicep, you can't fully contract it, you can't fully develop it. So I've had to really look at physics, I've had to look at biomechanics, I've had to really look at alternative ways to stimulate my arms because of this limitation I've had. And I'm very stoked about getting this surgery, and I'm obviously, God willing, I'm hoping that I recover quickly and that I get my full range back so that I can start bringing up my own arms, as that's been an area that I've wanted to improve as well. And I blame it on this dumb bone chip. I won't have that excuse after this surgery, assuming the recovery goes well. So let's take a look at elbow position, which is probably the most influential thing in terms of training your biceps. So we'll start with this bench angle. Biceps, as you can know, biceps have two different muscles. There's the long head and the short head. The long head crosses the shoulder joint, which means there's also a degree of shoulder flexion, extension from the shoulder. From the bicep, and unfortunately this is what most people turn their bicep routines into, shoulder exercises, because they're not locking their body down. So one of the things I like to you need to understand is that there's 3 different elbow positions that you can have, and they're all going to dictate the intensity you experience on your biceps. So we can have elbows at your side, we can have elbows in front of you, and we can have elbows behind you. When your elbows are behind you, this is when you'll be in the most vulnerable position. This is where you're going to work the long head of the bicep the most. And this is what's going to put them in a stretched position. This is where you'll find that you're weaker. And this is a great place to work if you find that your biceps aren't growing. So incline bicep curls, very, very powerful exercise. So one of the things I like to do is to ensure, or just pretend I'm lying on the incline here, but I like my elbows behind me. Now, when I initiate the movement, the first thing I think about is contracting the bicep without applying any movement. And a lot of you can practice this right now. Just try and contract your bicep and only your bicep without even moving the dumbbell. And most of us just think about, how do we get the dumbbell up? And they think about the thing in their hand. How do I get the thing in my hand up? As long as I can get that weight up, I'm working my biceps. You know what? I actually feel it everywhere but my biceps right now. And this is only 15 pounds. What I think about once my elbows are back is I'm keeping a straight line from my shoulder to my elbow. And I think about crushing the imaginary line between my forearm and my bicep, which is right here. All right? So that is your #1 tip. When you're doing your bicep curls, I want you to stop thinking about, how do I get this thing up? I want you to think about shortening the distance and crushing your bicep with your forearm. That one mental cue is going to teach you how to contract your bicep harder. All right? That's a really great tip. And it's just thinking about exercise differently. Remember we were talking about this a few weeks ago with the push-ups, how I think about pushing the floor away from me as opposed to actually pushing up. And it's thinking about what you're doing and how to isolate the muscle better. That's one thing. The next thing I like to do is a lot of work with my elbows in front of me. So if you can see this from this angle, actually, give me a second. We don't need to stop the camera here. I'm just going to spin this around. Anything that locks your body down is going to help you isolate. So I love doing, this would be kind of like a preacher curl, but anything with my elbows in front of me. Because right now, can I cheat? No, not much. I have to get this up by contracting the muscle I'm actually trying to work extremely hard. So this forces me to use weights that I can control, I can manage, and this is another awesome exercise. So prone dumbbell curls. All right, so elbows out in front of you are gonna also create a really strong contraction on the bicep, and this is another awesome thing you can do. I'm not too big on messing around with the wrist position. I mean, you can definitely, so we can talk about that another day, how to stimulate the supinators of the forearm by where you hold the dumbbell, whether it's here, here, or here. We go in depth on that actually on Live Large TV. But for now, I want you to work with those positions. Lastly, the one thing you can do, I'm gonna stay in the shot here, is when you're doing your bicep curls, actually, heck, this position right here could be great. Start doing your bicep curls from your knees. Seriously, what do most people do when they do bicep curls? Have you guys ever seen the no curl bicep curl? Have you seen the no curl bicep curl? Let me show you what the no curl bicep curl looks like. Can I stand up? Am I in the shot? All right. This is the no curl bicep curl. So we've got hip extension, trunk flexion, hip extension, trunk flexion, and just a little bit of elbow flexion at the top. That's how most people do their bicep curls. And believe it or not, you can hoist up 80 to 100 pounds once you start figuring out how to use your body. So one thing you guys can do is try doing bicep curls off your knees. Right now, there's not a lot of hip movement you can get. Next thing I want you to try is the starting elbow position for your barbell curls. Right now, I could hold this barbell here all day. How come? Because there's no tension on my biceps. Now, what happens when I bring my elbows forward? Right now, my biceps are working just to stabilize this position. So when I do my barbell curls, I never stop and start here because there's essentially no more force going through my bicep. Gravity's pulling me down this way, not against, there's no more moment of resistance on my bicep, all right? But when I come this way, this is hard. This would be a hard exercise to sustain for 30 seconds, and I'm not even moving the weight. Now imagine if you start doing all your curls from here. You're gonna lift a lot less weight, but it's gonna feel a lot harder. You're gonna get a way bigger pump. You're gonna see your arms start to grow. Most guys don't like to do this stuff because they don't wanna drop their weights. They go to the gym for ego building, not bodybuilding. So this position is not wrong, it's just not optimal. Every time you do a rep, you get a rest at the bottom. And most guys don't even go to the bottom. They kind of, they just stop here, right? So they're pretty much doing partials all the time, and just emphasizes the mid-range of the movement. When we know the weakest part of a muscle is at its endpoints, down here and down here. I'm gonna give you one more tip, and this is how to change the trunk position. So what happens when we're right here? Most guys go like this. Now look at this position, the top position. I could hold this all day long. How come? Because again, there's no more tension on the bicep. So most guys bring the barbell so high, there's no more tension here. But now try holding this. Now I'm being pulled out of a contracted position because of gravity. All right, so you see how that little change in body position, this, I could hold this for probably 5 hours. This, probably 60 seconds, just because of the direction of the force. All right, so we have to always ask ourselves, what am I doing in the gym? Is it effective for my goals? A lot of us just go and swing weights, and you guys have heard this saying before, don't lift like a weightlifter, lift like a bodybuilder, because we're not trying to lift weight. When we go to the gym, the thing you need to think about is we're contracting against resistance. That's what we're doing. If you can think of weight training as contracting against resistance, you'll be able to create more forceful contractions, more shortening of the muscle, more length of the muscle, and a way better workout with way less loads and way less stress on your joints, faster recovery time, because now when you're training, you're only targeting the muscle you're actually working, and you're going to be able to recover faster, and you're going to make better gains, and you have more longevity, etc. All right, so again, a couple rants in there, but I thought I'd go a little more in depth. And a lot of people have been asking about, joining Live Large TV, and they want to know, well, what's all this extra content you put out on the show on a weekly basis? Because I put out 30 to 60 minute episodes. People want to know, well, what am I going to learn that I'm not learning here, Vince? Well, to be honest, that was just a little taste, all right? So that was just a little taste of some of the info that we dive into more deeper on the show. So if you haven't checked out Live Large TV, that's where I give out all my advanced knowledge in terms of everything, fitness, nutrition, supplementation. Am I looking there? All right, we got these two cameras, they're confusing me. All right, so I think that's it. Yeah, check out Live Large TV, that's where I was. And thank you so much for the questions, fellas, about biceps training. I hope that was helpful. And once I get this elbow surgery done, I want to let you guys know that I'm going to start filming. I prefer to teach when I'm actually in workout clothes. It's kind of weird for me to teach in jeans and a nice shirt here. So I'm looking forward to getting the elbow cleaned up. That way we can start doing a lot of these videos with me actually working out, demonstrating more things, working with real weights and everything. So it'll become a little more exciting for you to watch. But I appreciate you tuning in every time. Be sure to stay subscribed to the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And you know what? We need a conversation starter for below. So why don't we start with this conversation? What's your #1 bicep tip? And if any of them were the ones I've already shared, confirm it below and let us know how effective it was for you. So what is your #1 bicep training tip? Share it below, and don't tell us something you read or heard. Tell us something you've learned from experience and something that actually made your arms bigger. That's all we care about, to learn from people that actually do things in the real world and have something to show for it. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching.